Welcome to Rates and Barrels, presented by E-Trade from Morgan Stanley. Derek Van Riper here with Clay Link. Clay is the senior baseball editor over at RotoWire, longtime friend of mine in this business. Clay, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Derek, thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure to talk with the man who really gave me my first breaks in this industry. So always cool to talk with you. We miss you over here at RotoWire, but love to see you doing your thing and having a lot of success, and just great to catch up with you a little bit.
I appreciate that. It's been fun over the years, just getting chances to catch up with you again. First Pitch Arizona coming up here in just a couple of months. We talked about that last week with Ryan Bloomfield. Still a chance to get an early bird rate on that. If you'd like to join us out in the desert, November 6th through the 9th are the dates this year. So we got that to look forward to, baseballhq.com for anybody interested. I think you've gone out there several times. It's one of those places that once you go, it sort of becomes part of an annual plan for a lot of folks. Schedules permitting, it moves around a little bit by weekend, but it's a great place to catch up with old friends, to make new ones, and to watch some baseball in pretty much perfect Arizona weather right after the World Series wraps up. Right when you feel like baseball is gone for the entire winter, it's the second chance. It's one last bite at the apple.
Yeah, it really reminds you that this never really stops. It's just it's a 24/7, 365 type of thing. And if you love baseball, I highly recommend it. I remember going with you the first couple times I was there and being a little nervous, but everybody was so welcoming and kind, and just, that kind of anxiety just left immediately. It's really a good rapport there with everybody, and a judgment-free zone. So that's great.
Definitely. And Brent Hershey, Ray Murphy done a great job continuing that tradition, running that conference. Ron Chandler, Rick Wilton started it 30 years ago now. It's hard to believe it's been that long since that conference started. It's grown quite a bit too. So hopefully we'll see some new faces and catch up with a lot of old friends over the course of First Pitch Arizona this year. On this episode, Clay, we're going to dig into a few waiver targets. It's a little early, and not a lot has changed since the episode we recorded last Friday with Ryan Bloomfield, because there weren't games Monday through Thursday this week during the All-Star break. But we got a little breaking news we'll get to. We got a fun game planned here, and we'll get to some names that we think are intriguing if you're trying to find some upgrades on your roster. I want to start today, though, by just asking if you have any takeaways from the 2025 season so far. Maybe things you have to adjust for as you're trying to improve your teams down the stretch, just general observations. Any titles, any major titles that you're in contention for here with the 2.5 months to go in the season?
Well, the stake league is, in my crosshairs. We'll see. I got about 100 roto points there hanging around. I've never won the league. You're still among you're one of two people who have won it twice. I've never won the RotoWire Stake League, so that's one I'd like to take down. A third place in TGFBI, which, trying to win another title there. And let's see here. Tout Wars head-to-head, my only head-to-head league, and I was in first place for a while, now down to fourth, but still in the hunt there. And I got to say, the main event, 10th in my league, and when I drafted, I was so sure this was the year I was going to compete for a league title there, but the competition is so cutthroat, and guys like Brian Reynolds letting me down. Just some busts that have really tanked the team. But 71 points, I'm not giving up hope, but that's one where I cannot seem to get over the hump in the main event. Just so tough. But big takeaways, your podcast partner, Eno Saris, was doing a lot of talking about how the seams were a little higher and ball not traveling quite as far. That's kind of one of the big takeaways for me, aside from, Kyle Raleigh, who's the story of the season, but it hasn't mattered for him. But it just seemed like power is a little harder to come by. I don't have the league-wide numbers in front of me, but it does feel like you can kind of sense that the ball isn't quite traveling as much as in recent years, which continues a trend of Major League Baseball just kind of having these different batches of balls and the ball traveling differently from year to year. It's kind of become a recurring theme in recent years for Major League Baseball.
Yeah, the ball beat is one that Eno's been on for a couple of years. I think it's one that he wishes would quiet down and maybe go away completely, where if they could tighten up the manufacturing specs and the consistency of the ball, we'd have a more consistent product year to year, just in terms of what's happening with batted balls on the field. But I'm with you. I do think power has been a little bit harder to come by, at least in in terms of the waiver wire, I think the types of guys that end up on the wire most weeks, they're not as likely to deliver in that category. I feel like it takes a little bit more to do damage in that facet of the game right now. And man, the NFBC main event is just an unbelievably tough league. I think my best individual finish in one of those leagues is like getting my money back. Like it has been rough, and it's in 6 or 7 attempts over the years. I didn't play it again this year. It's one of those things. Like I want to do better in that league, and I'm starting to find that the Sunday fab run is grinding me down. Like I am. Every year, it seems like it bothers me just a little bit more to have to stop at 5, 6 o'clock Sunday evening, sit down, pop open the computer. And you and I, we live in the upper Midwest. We only get so many nice weekends every year. A bunch of those fall on holidays and different days where there's just some stuff going on. So no one wants to listen to a lot of complaining, but I'm losing my patience with that part of our schedule. I did actually make a push to the Tout Wars board, and I asked Steve Gardner about this too. He's like, do you think we could run Fab on Thursday nights? Because we did that in a couple leagues you and I play in. And I find that worked better for my life. So I don't know. I don't know if my long-term future is a lot of high-stakes leagues. If Fab stays on Sunday, I feel like that's actually a deterrent, because especially for those leagues, I dig in even harder. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything given the stakes involved.
Yeah, and I've cut down on some leagues in recent years just to kind of reclaim my Sundays. It really is a thing where, I mean, if you're in a bunch of leagues, you're taking 3, 4, 5 hours to do Fab. It really eats into your weekend. And, sometimes if I'm going on the cheap route, I'll throw in, I've thrown in probably $21 bids, and then sometimes I don't get any of them. Like, that's how active Fab is there. But I have gotten like Jack Caglione, who's been a disappointment, but I got him and, Mizorowski, and still 10th in my league. I'm trying to figure things out, but it's, even with like Ellie De La Cruz and Speed covered pretty well, it's further down in the standings than I like to admit.
Yeah. It's a tough road, but I've seen plenty of teams grind it, at least get back to that level where you can get your money back. Maybe you can't win this year, but get your entry back. It makes it easier to play again the following season. Keep on grinding. That seems to be the theme as we hit the past midway point of the season. Some news to get to here as we get rolling on this Friday. Connor Norby is going to miss 6 to 8 weeks after hand surgery. Norby's one of those players, Clay, where I'm still trying to figure out what his baseline true talent is. He was really good after the trade last year. Hasn't quite been that guy in 2025. Now we're going to lose a significant portion of the second half. There is enough time for him to get back, but I don't know if we're going to get a complete answer on how we should value Norby going into 2026 before this season wraps up.
Yeah, exactly. I think his grade at the end of the season inevitably will be incomplete just because of the missed time. And, I think with most people, myself included, if you were to ask which of these Marlins would be an all-star this year between Connor Norby and Kyle Stowers, I would have said Norby more likely. But Stowers kind of on the other end of the spectrum after coming over in that trade, hit $186 in his time with Miami last season, and it was pretty much off my redraft radar for mixed leagues at least. And he's been fantastic. Norby, on the other hand, has just been unable to get going. So I'm excited to see what he can do. I still holding out hope that he could be an impact player for them. But yeah, I've been shocked by Stowers' production this season. So if Norby can come back and kind of bloom into some, even a slightly above league average hitter, I think that'll be a win for Miami. But they're still kind of waiting and still a few years off from competing, I'd imagine. So. But I do think Norby has a chance to be a part of this future and a long-term piece for this organization.
Yeah, I think the key for Norby is going to be drawing more walks. I think there's always going to be swing and miss, but I think if he could end up being one of those guys that maintains the high 20% K rate with like an 8 to 10% walk rate, the OBP will be good enough where he can stay in a prominent lineup spot. He has ways to help with both power and speed. So it might be like a 20 to 25 homer, 12 steal sort of player that we're getting in a typical like peak season. That's still really good if that's the outcome for Norby. But maybe going to come at a little bit of a discount looking ahead to next year. Graham Pauley's going to be the guy likely to pick up a lot of playing time for the Marlins in the absence of Norby. And I know Pauley was an AFL standout a couple of years ago. He's still 24, turns 25 in September, lefty, so maybe he'll lose the occasional start against same-handed pitching. He's been at AAA this year, only an 11% K rate, 7 homers, 5 for 5 as a base stealer. He's only played 34 games, but there might actually be some deep league appeal there if you're looking for some help on the corner, at least temporarily.
Yeah, you love to see that strikeout rate. And just 16 strikeouts and 145 plate appearances against 14 walks, 7 homers, 5 steals. Just hasn't done really anything at the big league level yet, but you're right, that could come. He's not a guy who's just a total scrub. He can play a lot of positions too. So I probably need to see a little bit more at the big league level before I invest in like a standard fantasy league. But if you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel and you need somebody, I'm with you that playing time, and if you squint, you can see a shred of upside here.
Yeah, I think in our league that does run Thursday night Fab Maki, it's a keeper league format. I saw Yohan Moncada got picked up by one of the teams in our league. And like, if you're looking at someone like Moncada to help on the corner, I think you're probably also looking at Graham Pauley. That's the way I'm looking at him right now. Like 15 plus team leagues might be enough there to get excited about him in the short term. Shane Bieber has resumed a rehab assignment. That happened on Tuesday, day of the All-Star game. Easy to potentially miss that. 5 Ks in 2 innings. It was down in the Arizona Complex League. Looks like probably 3 or so more rehab starts before he's back. That's going to push the timetable into August. Not a huge surprise there. Just a broader question. It doesn't have to be about Bieber specifically. How do you approach players coming directly off Tommy John? We'll likely get Bieber back here in about a month. Kyle Bradish should be coming back before the end of the season. Do you actually see, in-season value with these guys? Do you have certain types of players that you're more likely to roll the dice on than others? Because everyone's looking for pitching in nearly all formats, and especially guys that have, especially in Bieber's case, longer track records of success. But even in Bradish's case, the numbers he was putting up pre-surgery were great. Like, they could be impact guys if they're all the way back once they return.
Well, I think this year for me, I've kind of learned another harsh lesson in that some of these guys just, the fact is that it's going to take a while for the command to come back, and maybe the velocity too. I was really interested in Shane McClanahan coming into the season. Now, he was coming off his second Tommy John, I believe. But I was, burned by that. I thought he would, I kind of bought into the spring, thought he looked healthy, but man, it's a long season, and it's just hard to know what kind of innings you're going to get in the long term. Sandy Alcantara too. I was optimistic about him. I think on opening day, he was about, 18 months removed from surgery. So I thought, he's further along. He'd be a great investment this year. Not so much the case. So it is really tough to bank on these guys coming back from surgery. And Spencer Strider too. He's been better lately, and I think maybe he had the internal brace procedure, which is slightly different. But it's when you're talking about coming back from reconstructive elbow surgery, not just the fastball, but regaining your spin and having the elbow hold up with the intensity of all those different pitches and just the workload. It's really hard to gauge. So I think I'm going to be a little bit more hesitant in the future on some of these guys, just because there's so many variables. It's kind of become pretty standard. A lot of guys coming off Tommy John surgery, but I'd like to ideally give them that extra year to shake the rust and find themselves again, prove they can hold up to the workload before I invest, because gotten burned on a few occasions this year.
Yeah, I think the only league where I was really kind of aggressively going after Bradish during the All-Star break was Tout Wars, because in the short week, you don't necessarily have 9 pitchers who are going to go. I thought I could add them while he's still on the IL, shift him over to the unlimited IL spots we have on the roster, and then just wait and see. And if it sounds like it's going well on rehab, if the models are encouraging, maybe then he'll be useful in a format that deep. But I think especially in leagues that have no IL spots, that's a really, really tough way to use a precious spot. And I think I'm more likely to wait longer now as well. McClanahan, man, he's so good. I'm just afraid we're never going to see it over full seasons again. I know he's still 28, but 2 Tommy Johns already on that arm. I think he's thrown 2 2/3 innings in games since 2023 ended. So it's been a long road back for him. Maybe in 2026, if the price is right, he'll end up on a few of my rosters. But I think I'm becoming more risk averse the longer I play, because even though there are occasionally some guys that come back and are themselves, it seems like there's a few bumps in the road. Regardless of what type of approach you have, this probably merits some further research to kind of tease this as maybe a topic that could be explored for a presentation at First Pitch Arizona. So we'll see if that comes together.
Can I throw an either or at you real quick?
Yeah.
Just putting you on the spot a little bit. But a guy like Bradish, who's injured but coming back, versus a guy like, say, Joe Boyle, who's healthy but seemingly stuck in this long relief role. Which would you rather have for the rest of the season?
I think I'd rather have Boyle. I mean, I know the innings are going to be very inconsistent because they're going back to using Drew Rasmussen more like a regular starter coming out of the break, and that was the spot that Boyle sort of temporarily fit into. But that Rays rotation is one that has a lot of injury risk baked into it already. So all it's going to take is one other injury for Boyle to get that opportunity. And with Bradish, I guess the thing that I have to start thinking about, it won't matter as much in Tout Wars because you get unlimited IL, but I think I'm just worried if the Orioles continue to fall further out of playoff contention, their motivation to bring Bradish back continues to decline. It's based entirely on his health, which it should be anyway. Yeah. But they may just say, okay, it's fine. We'll ramp you up and have you go through a normal winter, or we'll have you throw kind of like a DeGrom couple of starts in September. We'll take an extra cautious approach. I think that's still a path they could choose if there are any sort of hiccups as Bradish tries to get back. So I think I want the guy that at least has a chance to give me some more innings in the time between now and whenever Bradish is actually back.
Yeah, really good points. And Taj Bradley's name has been mentioned in trade rumors, so maybe a deal for Tampa Bay. You never have too much starting pitching, but they do seem to have pretty good abundance of options there they could trade from. But yeah, I've been holding on to Boyle, a little disappointed with his upcoming role, but I think I'd lean your side too. Just better team, and I think there's healthy now, which is a huge factor. So, and of course, if you have IL spots in your league, that changes the equation a little bit. But I just straight up bench Boyle versus Bradish, I think is a kind of a tough call.
Yeah, I'm with you there. There was another minor trade that happened. Stephen Nesbitt mentioned the Adam Frazier back to Kansas City deal on Thursday's show. Don't think that one has any sort of fantasy implications. I'm not sure this one does either, except for maybe in the secondary impact it has. Dane Dunning got flipped to Atlanta for Jose Ruiz and some cash. That Atlanta rotation is just duct taped together right now. We're going to see Joey Wentz, who they got on waivers, starting Saturday at home against the Yankees. Dunning's going to work in long relief for now. I could see him getting a few starts at some point, though. They got Davis Daniel listed on the upcoming starters grid over RotoWire right now. You see some names, you're like, oof, they're going through it right now because of the injuries to Chris Sale and Spencer Schwellenbach. And both of those guys appear to be pretty far away. So I think this small deal might just be kind of a reminder that they are several weeks away from getting either one of Sale and Schwellenbach back, and maybe that informs a decision to let those guys go in leagues where you don't have IL spots if you haven't made that decision already. And then there's the footnote of Jesse Chavez getting DFA'd by Atlanta again. But he'll re-sign him again. Yeah, he'll be back. It's not over. It's just not over yet. One more time before the deadline, I think, for Jesse Chavez.
I think that makes sense. Things did not go well for Didier Fuentes. Of course, optioned back earlier this month. And I really thought the Atlanta Braves were going to be really good this season. I picked them to come out of this division, actually. So it's been pretty shocking to see just how bad they've been. Austin Riley on the IL now, but was striking out at a crazy rate. Ozzie Albies has dropped off a cliff, and Michael Harris, too. It's been a big disappointment, this Profar suspension. So this team is one that's kind of, I think, facing a bit of a crossroads this offseason. I think Snitker may be gone after this season, and been some rumors about Acuna. I'd be shocked if he were traded, but this team could maybe use a little bit of a roster shakeup here.
Yeah, curious to see how Alex Anthopoulos wants to go about that as the offseason approaches. Could be a really active team at the trade deadline, too. My argument continues to be that if you are in a situation where you're willing to give up on a season, kind of drop out of that big middle group of teams and be the best seller, the team that has the most interesting pieces to flip, then that could actually change your long-term fortunes quite a bit because you'll have a lot of leverage. I wanted to ask you, we talked about some rebound candidates on Thursday's show on the position player side, and Brian Reynolds was actually my pick for position player that I thought was going to just be a lot better, much more like projections the rest of the way, because he's such a consistent player. Like nothing in the underlying numbers looked like it changed enough for me to understand or to assume this was a decline, right? So on the pitching side, is there one pitcher you were banking on for a rebound in the second half?
Well, there are a few who I've just kind of been sticking by my guns, even though numbers and projections don't really back up the case to keep holding. But Gavin Williams of Cleveland is one where it's like, all right, he's got a 1.43 whip. What am I doing trotting him out there still? But when I watch him, I'm like, there's something more here. And I saw it in spring training. Maybe I did put too much stock into that, but I still think there's something here with Gavin Williams. Am I crazy to think that? I mean, a guy like Hayden Birdsong could fit that mix too. He's been pretty disappointing, but I'm still holding on to him. Logan Allen of Cleveland too is another guy I picked up last night in the Stake League. Got a couple home starts coming up against the A's and Baltimore, but I would say Gavin Williams is the one that I'm just kind of begrudgingly and stubbornly holding on to, hoping for more.
Yeah, I've been living the Gavin Williams experience throughout the season. It's weird. I have the same sort of takeaway. I watch him like, this guy should be better. He's in a good organization. And there's some things he has that you can't teach. He's huge. He's got 6'9" extension, 86th percentile extension, big time fastball velocity. Seems like it's got pretty good ride on it too. It's 5 different pitches. He's added the cutter. He's done a bunch of the things that should work. Like this definitely should be a better second half than it's been a first half for Gavin Williams. I mean, something's going to change. The 3.70 ERA is not going to sit alongside the 1.43 whip. Either the ERA is coming up to match the whip, or the whip's coming down to match the ERA. And I really, really hope it's the whip coming down to match the ERA, because it'd be weird to me for a guy with that arsenal. And the command is the knock. You can see it in the model. It's a 92 location plus. I think he can overcome that, especially considering the schedule the Guardians have coming out of the break. They've got one of the easier schedules throughout the entire second half as well. So hopefully that is something that can nudge Gavin Williams back in the right direction. I think you, me, a lot of us, a lot of people listening to this show are waiting on the Gavin Williams rebound. Yeah. I was thinking about this from an ace perspective too, and because we're at that point in the year, it starts around Memorial Day and it runs up until I feel like the actual MLB trade deadline. The number of people in your league who start to accept the reality of what this season's going to be, or even just knowing that they're imbalanced and have to do something about it, it just keeps increasing week over week over week. If you need an ace, I think Dylan Cease is still doing all the things he did last year when he put up elite ratios. I mean, the 3.47 ERA is maybe like a step away from elite, but a 1.07 whip last season. You always get the strikeouts. I can't find anything in the underlying numbers that's changed enough for me to believe that Dylan Cease still isn't that guy. So I think as you're kind of cruising around looking for teams that have underperforming pitchers, you're probably not getting that much of a discount, but I think you're right to go get Dylan Cease. He might actually be a tradable ace. Like that's the thing that at least makes it possible. I think I'd be stunned if the ratios as they are now hold up through the end of this season.
Yeah, that's a really good one, because Dylan Cease, I mean, I was sure he was like a top 15-ish starting pitcher coming into the season. This is an incredibly tough game, baseball, and can be maddening at times. So, and a lot of it's in the head. I have to think that maybe there's just a mental tweak or a few minor tweaks away from Cease returning to prominence here. It's just maddening how bad he's been. I don't really know why. But I do think he's a good buy low. I even saw people in shallower leagues, well, some people online suggesting in shallower leagues you could drop Cease. Not something I would advise doing, but I think you're right that you could get him at a reasonable price, not have to give up a big asset to get him. So yeah, I like that. And yeah, with Gavin Williams, it's not quite as nauseating as the Fernando Rodney experience, but I think I do want off the Gavin Williams experience. I just can't bring myself to jump off the ride.
I always feel compelled to admit that my path to be one who could enjoy the Fernando Rodney experience was longer than it should have been. I think it was when he was closing for the Twins. I went to a game in person, saw him close it out, had the amazing entrance video. And at that point, it flipped for me. I'm like, all right, I get it. I like this guy. I like his vibes. Like, I think I was always just frustrated by the results for the years before that and wasn't just enjoying a guy that was just having a good time out there.
Yeah, it was always up and down and rarely smooth sailing, but he was, he had his years as a good closer. At the end, it was really up and down. So it was a real roller coaster ride for Fernando Rodney managers.
I think the 2012 Fernando Rodney season is one of the most extreme, incredible outlier seasons where every possible thing had to have gone right that year for a .60 ERA and a .78 whip to happen. Like, yeah, the Rays are amazing. And he was there for another season after that. And it was a 338 and a 134, which I think would have been very much surprising in like enough of a surprise. Like, okay, yeah, the Rays did their thing. But like that I don't know if I'll ever see a season that's as much of an outlier in my entire life as what Rodney did.
That season was insane.
Year.
Good call. I mean, I kind of thought a guy like Aroldis Chapman would kind of be at that stage in his career now, but it has been he's been stellar. So, with his career walk rate, I thought, he'd kind of go the route of Fernando Rodney at this point, but Cuban Missile just keeps surprising people. So he seems to, I thought he'd be traded, but the Red Sox suddenly red hot, and maybe Chapman sticks around.
I think
kind of an aside.
Yeah, no, I think the only thing that's maybe going to work against them, I didn't realize this yesterday. I didn't think about it when I was talking about them as a team that I think will be buyers. Like they're going to, despite trading Devers, be aggressively buyers. They do have a tough, like kind of like the opposite of Cleveland. They have a really tough schedule coming out of the break. So if they were to wobble enough in these next 2 weeks, maybe they wouldn't buy aggressively. But I don't know. I get the sense that they are going to be pushing some chips in because they've got a good core. And if some of those young guys start to click in the second half too, they could be a really dangerous team come October, even though they traded away the best player we're going to see get traded likely at this trade deadline by flipping Devers last month. Let's get to a little game that I put together. It is by little, I'm not underselling it. This is a very small game. I wanted to ask you I want to see how many of these guys you can pull off the top of your head. Top 10 position players this season in the FanGraphs player rater. So I used the 15-team 5x5 settings. And I believe you're going to get 7 of them at least. I have a lot of confidence in you, Clay. I think you're gonna crush this. So
okay.
Give me players that are in the top 10, position players only, top 10 in the FanGraphs player rater for the 2025 season so far.
Well, you got to say Judge, of course, and then Kyle Raleigh.
Judge is 1, Raleigh's 2. Yep, 5160 for Judge.
That's insane. Pete Crow Armstrong, who's been shockingly good.
He's 3, yep.
Ellie's
5.
Ellie's in there.
Yep.
Let's see. James Wood.
James Wood is 8th.
Okay, Shohei's
4th. So you knocked out the top 5 and number 8. 4 left on the board.
Bobby Witt.
Bobby Witt Jr. is number 10.
Wow.
6. You got 6 for 6 so far. 7 for 7.
Well, I know. Just talking with Todd Zola the other week. I know Schwarber's up there.
Schwarber's very close.
He's not in there.
He's 13th.
Okay,
I'll give you 3 strikes. So I think you're gonna get the rest of these.
Oh, Jose Ramirez.
Jose Ramirez is 6.
Okay. Sorry to waver a bit here. I'm trying to think who else would be up there. Kyle Tucker.
All right, you got one left, and you got two guesses to get them right. I think this is the hardest one of the 10.
Is it Gino Suarez?
He's 14th, so you're not far off. Right there next to Kyle Schwarber.
2 strikes. Huh?
One more crack at it.
Who would that be?
He was the latest drafted player of all the guys that are in this group right now. And it was actually by about 100 picks in ADP, I think.
Wow, really?
Yeah, because PCA was the second latest. He went about 100 picks after PCA.
Wow, really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I was going to say Junior Caminero, but he went higher than PCA. Brent Rooker. Machado?
Not Machado, no. Byron Buxton.
Oh, Buxton, of course.
Byron Buxton. I mean, that's awesome.
That is awesome. I think we've all been waiting for him to stay healthy and put it together, and maybe this is the year that it all happens. He's only cracked 100 games, twice in his career?
Yeah. Yeah, he did it back in 2017, and he did it last year in 2024. Did it, but under 400 plate appearances. I mean, he barely made it last year.
It's hard to believe he was going so late. I mean, I think with his injury history, it makes some sense, but I think people still had some hope for Buxton. It's not like he was completely written off coming into the season. I guess the steals, man, 17 steals?
I mean,
I didn't realize he had that many. That's pretty crazy.
Everything across the board, a perfect 17 for 17 on stolen base attempts. He's popped 21 homers. This is the sixth straight season in which Byron Buxton's had a double-digit barrel rate. Like, that has just become the absolute norm for him. Kind of flipped that back in 2020. Just got a lot stronger. I think that was a little bit of like an injury prevention thing where he changed up some of his routines and bulked up a little bit. And yeah, that paid off in a big way from a power perspective. And I kind of think we're going to look at Buxton and even Mike Trout and some of these guys that have had chronic injury problems, and they're going to continue to be worthwhile gambles if they sit outside the top 200 like this, because even if it's only, a 1 in 10 shot of getting the season like the one Buxton has put together so far, that's huge from that draft slot.
Yeah, it really is. And, maybe next year's the year Trout stays healthy again, but it's just hard to bank on that. But maybe if he's going like outside the top 200, maybe. If that were the price on Trout next year, I'd be interested. But yeah, Buxton, he had that year, was it 2023, where he didn't play center field at all? He was just
UT only. Yeah, they tried to keep all the wear and tear off his legs, which you do that as like a thing to say, okay, we don't want him to get hurt. But how productive are you going to be at the plate? How productive are you going to be as a base runner? If the corrective action to keep you healthy is to take you off the field completely, like that can't be good in terms of your chances of even holding up as a productive hitter as a season wears along.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if maybe if Rafael Devers, that was part of his not wanting to, strictly be a DH, is that maybe it kind of takes you out of your rhythm at the dish a little bit. In Buxton, I didn't quite realize how efficient he's been on the base paths. You mentioned perfect 17 for 17 this year. Only caught stealing twice over the past 4 seasons. That efficiency is pretty amazing, and the fact that through all the injuries he still has that speed element is pretty amazing, especially now that he's on the wrong side of 30. Color me skeptical that he can stay on the field and keep this up, but he's really proven me wrong so far this season. So that was one I don't know if I would have got that one with another few guesses, but I probably should have.
It's the one, I think, really big surprise of the bunch. And I would say PCA is also a surprise, but because he's been in the highlights nonstop, I think he's more front of mind than Buxton has been. Yeah, for his career, 110 steals, caught 12 times. That is really, really good on the base pass. There's one of your guys we've watched his entire career. If you could say, give him an A health grade and run it back, what could he have done? I mean, I think the possibilities are, as we've seen in the last couple of years, like they were even greater than we thought as his time as a prospect.
And a twin for life, didn't he say that? The All-Star game?
Yeah, he said he's got a no-trade clause, and he's still got a few years left on the long-term deal that he signed there anyway. So, I mean, on paper, of course, a player that any team would probably be excited to go get, but it doesn't sound like he has any interest in waiving that no-trade clause. So, good for him. You want to be in Minnesota, stay in Minnesota.
He shut that down pretty resoundingly at the All-Star game, so taking himself off the block, I guess.
I love it. Let's get to a few early weekend waiver targets. We'll stay in Minnesota. Zebby Matthews, really sharp in his most recent AAA rehab outing. I noticed he's about 40% rostered right now in CBS leagues, 45% in the RotoWire Online Championship. That's a 12-team league over on the NFBC platform. It was 9Ks, 4 scoreless last time out. Zebby has been a model favorite now for a while. He's looked really good at AAA every time he's pitched there, really. Like the numbers kind of point to a guy that has nothing left to prove at that level. So what's your interest level in Zebby Matthews in the leagues where you could actually go out and try to pick him up this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely near the top of the list, I think, for this weekend. He had a good rehab outing on, I think, was it Sunday? I think it was just this last Sunday at AAA St. Paul. 9 strikeouts, no hits, over 4 shutout innings. So it looks like he's, reaching full strength after that shoulder injury, a subscapularis strain. So, I think we've kind of been waiting on him to really show what he can do. Hasn't really done that at the big league level yet, but they're going to need him to take the ball. And I think he's a lot better than he's shown so far. So, they got Simeon Woods, Richardson, David Festa. I think there's clear path for Zebby Matthews to be taking the ball every 5th day. So, and in that division, probably a lot of winnable games. So yeah, I'm very much interested in Zebby Matthews if I can land a share or two. I mentioned that I picked up Logan Allen. Not like I feel good about that. I'd much rather have a guy like Zebby with the upside. I think you can just clearly see more upside with a guy like Zebby. So count me in. I'd go pretty aggressively if he's out there.
Yeah, the Twins are opening up their second half schedule in Colorado this weekend. So you got some tough park factors to deal with at the very least. And it's warmer now in Denver too. So whereas I wasn't that worried about matchups against this Rockies team early in the year, I think the funhouse plays up a little bit more in July and August. So I'm a lot more careful with the types of guys that I'm willing to start at Colorado right now. Simeon Woods Richardson gets one of those starts, it appears. That'll be the Saturday starter. But I think you see multiple paths in right now. They may end up trading somebody. Bailey Ober's not far away from returning either, but kind of 2 spots there. And I think the best rotation they can put together does have Zebby Matthews in it. They're going to be in Los Angeles with matchups against the Dodgers after this stop in Colorado. So yeah, rough little stretch for the Twins coming out of the break. They'll be tested in a couple of different ways.
By the way, the Twins won like 11 in a row at some point, right? And then they're still under 500. It's kind of hard to do, I'd imagine.
They're a puzzling team, man. It's been a couple of years now where expectations on this show have been too high, I guess, compared to the results. And I just can't quite figure out why. Beyond the way that roster is built, having Buxton, Correa, and Royce Lewis as probably your 3 most important position players, like they're extremely poor injury history players that if they're going to be playing at less than 100% or on the IL, like that's going to quickly whittle away. It would be a really lofty projection when you have all those guys sort of baked into your expectations and your numbers. I want to talk about Andrew Painter for a minute.
Sure.
I think Painter's interesting because we were kind of told at the beginning of the season it was going to be a backloaded workload for him, that there was going to be an opportunity in the second half, and I don't think they really want to use him in the bullpen. For now, they're sticking with Taijuan Walker in the rotation, and Aaron Nola's still a few weeks away from returning. Maybe mid-August is kind of like the estimated return for Nola. Is Andrew Painter still a good stash? He's 58% rostered in CBS leagues. I know that probably factors in some keeper leagues. 30% rostered in the RotoWire Online Championship. So it's more of the redraft question here. Like, are you waiting on Painter, or are you trying to burn that spot on someone more likely to help you sooner, given what the Phillies have done with him so far?
I am holding on to him in at least 1 league, maybe 2, but Andrew Painter kind of reaching that like Bubba Chandler range where it's like, do I keep holding him or do I cut my losses, just move on? He hasn't been pitching all that well lately at AAA, Andrew Painter. Over his last 7 starts, he has a 5.71 ERA. 5 homers allowed his last 2 starts. So I do think he'll be up. I remember talking with some guys here at RotoWire preseason, and we thought maybe like 80 innings at the big league level.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably say under that at this point, but I do expect him to be up and in that rotation. Maybe they transition him to the bullpen for the postseason, and maybe they start that in September at some point. And I do feel better about him coming up than I do like a guy like Chandler. But it's like, is it going to pay off? I think it's a real question at this point. So I know it's tough if you've been stashing to make that leap and drop a guy like Chandler or Painter, but I think in a lot of leagues, there's probably somebody out there who can help you more and can help you quicker. And in the short term, I think, especially now, you got to have kind of a short-term focus and just, put your best lineup out there every week, because even though we still have, 2.5 months, clock's ticking at this point. I don't know if you can wait on a guy like that.
Yeah, and I think now we're in the dreaded prospect dead zone. You don't see a lot of promotions in July because you can just wait until a little bit later into August, bring somebody up, use them on the big league roster, get them that taste of the big leagues, and then still have rookie of the year eligibility for the following season. So I think I'm worried about that with Bubba Chandler, and now I'm starting to worry about that with Painter because he hasn't been overwhelmingly good at AAA. Mm-hmm. He's been kind of fine there. It's 39 Ks in 38 2/3 over his last 8 starts, ERA over 6 during that span, in part because he's given up 10 homers. I mean, that's been the biggest issue, is just getting touched up for the long ball. And if you can't fix that, then the Phillies probably aren't going to jam him into what's a really good rotation right now if Walker continues to give them anything close to a 3.55 ERA. I mean, like it's a surprising result for me, at least, with Taijuan Walker, but it's enough to keep Painter at AAA until he can get past this seemingly temporary home run issue.
Yeah, and you mentioned Aaron Nola. Briefly, he's been really bad this year, hurt right now, but he's going to slot into the rotation when he's back. So that's another obstacle for a guy like Painter. I'm pretty shocked by how bad Nola's been this year, but it's pretty small sample, and that they're going to give him, every opportunity to turn things around once he's healthy.
Wanted to ask, do you have any players, and it could be pitchers or hitters, doesn't matter which side this falls on, do you have any guys you're on right now for waiver wire purposes, or maybe you've already picked up in recent weeks, that you're sticking with despite shaky projections? My example is Eric Lauer. I've been trying to pick up Eric Lauer in a bunch of leagues, and the concern, as it was pointed out to me by a co-manager, Jeff Good, Low Guppy, in the Discord, if you're on the Rates and Barrels Discord, 3 of the 6 starts we've seen from Lauer have been short of 5 innings so far. But I kind of like what we're getting from him. And the more you look at Lauer and the more you start to think about how projections work, it's easy to see why the projection systems would be as bad as the bad at 4.98 for the ERA, because he had a 6.56 ERA and a 1.67 whip during his limited time with the Brewers in 2023. But that followed 2 years where he had an ERA in the 3s, better than league average whips, pretty good strikeout numbers, and he's striking a lot of guys out. And the way they're using him right now, I'm kind of a believer, at least, that he can beat the projections and come in closer to that 3.53 Sierra we're seeing right now. And that'll play in a lot of leagues. Even in an environment where power might be down a little bit, I think Eric Lauer is pretty useful so long as he stays in this Jays rotation.
Yeah, it's not a bad one. Mike Soroka is a guy who I've been using, and I like the whip and I like the strikeouts, but it's like he's got an ERA over 5 right now, and it's just hard to trust a guy like that. So I've been trotting him out there, but he's got a couple home starts. Just hard to feel good about him. Brandon Walter, lefty for Houston's been pitching pretty well, but I do feel like volatile. And I'm kind of playing with fire, kind of waiting for things to blow up there. But, in these deeper leagues, you got to kind of just, like Will Warren's another guy where I know I should probably find a better option, but pitches for a good team. And I just keep thinking that, the baseline should be better than it is so far. So those are a few guys that I've been sticking with, maybe against my better judgment.
Warren's one of those guys that in a 12-team league, you're looking at the wire and I'm looking for a guy on a good team that misses bats. So he does that. And you got to just take the chance that something will click. The ratios might improve. I guess when you look back at his track record, the whip's always been pretty high for Will Warren throughout his time in the Yankees system. So it's because he does issue a lot of walks. If he's going to get away with that, the home run rate has to stay down. It's been down so far, though. 0.85 homers per 9 is a great outcome for Will Warren. So I could see being in a lot of roster pickles with him, especially in those 12 and 14 team leagues where you think it's enough. The Ks alone are enough. And a lot of times they can be, especially if someone like that heats up. The Soroka call's a good one too. The injuries, the 2 Achilles tears. I mean, like I just want Soroka to be healthy, and his velocity's up a little bit this year too. Like, I think there's still something there. I think you're right to be patient in that case, especially Walter. I mean, he looks like at least an above average command guy, and I think the longer we do this, the more we have to trust what Houston's been able to do on the pitching side. They continue to draft and develop and find guys from all different corners of the baseball world, and Brandon Walter looks like another solid success story there too. So I think that's a pretty interesting call as well. A couple bats I wanted to ask you about before we go. Angel Martínez is playing a ton in Cleveland. Roster rates are low. It's like 11% on CBS, not very high on the RotoWire Online Championship either, but he's started 71 games this year, and he wasn't even on the roster for the first 12, so it's nearly an everyday role since he came up. He said 5 days out of the lineup since May 25th. It's an aggressive approach. Like, you see a 44.2% O-swing percentage that usually makes someone like me a little bit nervous about what you're going to get, but he only strikes out 21.5% of the time. There's some power, there's some speed. Does it have to be as narrow as, I'm not really worried about average, or I'm not really worried about OBP to use him? Or do you think Martínez is one of those guys that has enough raw tools where things could actually click, since he's playing quite a bit for the Guardians right now?
Yeah, I kind of like him. And, heading into the break, he had kind of a modest 8-game hitting streak before going 0 for 7 his last 2 games before the break. But yeah, power, speed. And just before we started recording, we talked a little bit about Michael Harris and what a disappointment he's been. Right before we started recording, I plugged in Angel Martínez for Michael Harris in the outfield in the stake league. And it was like, Michael Harris, I've just kind of left him in. It's like, yeah, he's been disappointing, but it's Michael Harris, so he'll get things going. But then when I looked at it, it's like, no, I don't think I can justify continuing to start Michael Harris. It's been really bad. Maybe, maybe he'll turn it on and get going. But Martínez, I think, has just shown enough. 8 homers, 6 steals, only a 236 average, and it's not like he's a superstar player, but he's just doing enough, I think, to clear that bar. This is a 16-team league I'm talking about. And maybe I'm jumping the gun here a little bit, but I do like overall what I'm seeing here. 15 doubles. And yeah, this team, I think, just, kind of needs him at various spots to fill in, kind of patchwork different things. And, Gabriel Arias has been hurt, and Brian Rocchio has been disappointing. So I think, Daniel Schneeman's been pretty mediocre. So I think there are a lot of different avenues here for Martínez, with Lane Thomas still on the AIL as well. So what do you think? Do you think I made a mistake plugging Martínez in over Michael Harris?
By projections, yes, but also how reliable is the Michael Harris projection right now?
He's been so bad.
I've
been patient, and it just hasn't happened.
So Jed Lowry did a breakdown, and I think the thing that I would wonder about with Harris is if, and this is completely soft sciences, but I think it's a very real thing that could happen. Maybe the All-Star break is the best possible thing that could have happened for Michael Harris, right? He plays every day because he's a great defensive center fielder. Things aren't going well. I can imagine some guys just grind, and they're trying to find anything that works, and nothing's working. Maybe those 4 days off for Michael Harris can actually help him flip the script a little bit. Maybe he's not going to be the guy he was when he debuted the rest of this year, but even if he were a league average hitter for the rest of this season, that would salvage something and probably help build up some confidence, get him some momentum going to the offseason. But I also benched Harris this week in Tout Wars. He's the only hitter I have on my bench right now. I did a bunch of wild stuff trying to get a bunch of saves and holds candidates to my lineup. Had to basically drop my entire bench to make it work. So we'll see if that gambit pays off. But I'm with you on Martínez. There's enough to like there. And if anybody out there is rostering Harris and benching him, I would say he's the kind of player that a bench is for at this point. You invested a lot in him. There's still reasons to believe that he could turn things around, even though it's been a miserable, miserable start to 2025 for him.
Yeah, he's batting behind Nick Allen. It's just, I mean, it's kind of that hard point. It's how long does it take for you to kind of adjust the baseline? And for me, it was just wait on Harris. But now I think I've finally seen enough to where it's like, whoa, something seriously wrong here. And yeah, maybe this All-Star break will provide Harris a bit of a reset. But like with Albies too, it's just been dramatic fall off for Harris. Last year's 722 OPS, 551 this season.
Yeah, I mean, brutal to sum it up in one word. One more name to throw at you though before we go. Yanquiel Fernández playing a good bit in Colorado. Somehow the Rockies are crowded in the outfield, at least the corner spots. I mean, Tyler Freeman's played really well. We've talked a lot about him on this show. Jordan Beck's a guy we were interested in coming into the season. So Fernández, along with those two guys, are kind of the primary trio for the two corner outfield spots and DH. So it looks like it sort of works. Brenton Doyle's still locked in as the center fielder. Does Fernández play enough for you to be intrigued in deeper leagues? There's definitely power there, and he's a lefty, so at least if it's more of a platoon situation, he's on the big side of it.
Yeah, that's true. I am interested a bit here. I don't really see him going the Zach Veen route where he just really struggles and gets sent down. Some early success in terms of average at 296. It just doesn't have a speed element, pretty much a zero when it comes to speed. So you're going to need that power to play. I guess in Colorado, good hitter's park, but I guess would you consider it a home run park? Probably skews toward that end of the spectrum, but maybe not a huge home run park.
I'd almost want to break it out by month and look at the differences. I mean, for the 3-year rolling average, the park factor from StatCast is a 103. So, slightly above average for homers, but not
interesting.
Not a lot. That's 12th, right? Yeah. Same as Rogers Center and Petco. You don't think of Coors and Petco as having any similarities, but by 3-year rolling averages, the park factors for homers are the same in those parks.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I think you're right too that now that it's the real hot months of summer, maybe things are a little different over the months to come. So, looking at our depth chart, we do not have Yanquiel Fernández as a starter anywhere, but still up with the big club. And again, I don't think he's going to struggle to the point he's sent down unless they decide that he's not playing enough to warrant keeping him up. That's kind of my one concern that, this is the Rockies that we're talking about. So they may just decide, let's send him back.
Wildly unpredictable.
I think he'll do enough with his opportunities to stick around, but you really need that power with him. So question marks, but if you need somebody to roll the dice on, I could see it. Would you rather have him or Colson Montgomery, the White Sox?
Yeah, if I'm just throwing a UT out there, I think Montgomery is going to play more consistently. So I reluctantly will say Colson Montgomery. No. I'm not going to fall into this trap, Clay. No.
I'm sorry.
I'm going with the guy that I put on the rundown. I'm going with Fernández over Montgomery in redraft leagues. The Rockies owe it to themselves to see what he can do. The K rate was down at 14% this year at AAA. Popped the 13 homers. I think the raw power is legit. I think you can even look age to level and say those WRC pluses, when you put them in the right context, are actually fine. They're actually good for Fernández. I think Colson Montgomery, maybe Keith Law's in my head right now. He's just saying he doesn't seem ready for the big leagues, and he has not been the same player since he hurt his back a couple of years ago. So I'll stick to my sheet. I'll stick to Fernández, but I do think that's a fair toss up. I think Montgomery's playing time being more stable, or at least appearing to be more stable, could lead people to that side of that debate.
Yeah, some flaws here. I think you're right though, because Montgomery's never hit for a palatable average really ever anywhere, especially at the higher levels of the minors. So I think he'd be a drain there, and just that jump from AAA to the majors is so steep, as we're seeing with a guy like Cags. I'm so sure he'd be fine. But Montgomery, just the batting average liability. I think I'm right. I think you're right that I'd rather roll the dice on a guy like Yanquiel, especially given that K rate that you mentioned, and just having that Coors Field bump does give you a little bit of it's kind of like a security blanket. Gives you a little baseline to work with.
A BABIP cushion, right? I mean, that's the thing that Coors has done the entire time. It's increased results on balls in play. That's the thing it will always do. So that's to me the thing that makes me like Fernández just a little bit more than Colson Montgomery if I'm trying to find some upside to catch lightning in a bottle here over the final stretch of the season. Clay, before we let you go, let our listeners know where they can read your work, where they can hear you. What are you up to for the rest of the season?
Well, yeah, check us out at RotoWire.com. We have the new look for the site. New evolution of RotoWire has commenced. So a lot of people putting in a lot of work behind the scenes to redesign the site and usher in a new era of RotoWire. You can find me on Twitter at ClayWLink. I'll be hosting with Todd Zola on the RotoWire podcast every Friday. And come check us out. I think right now we have a promo code going where it is camp, promo code camp, like training camp, because football's getting underway. You could save, I think, 25% off a subscription. So yeah, I'd say give us a shot. You can always cancel after a month and see if you like what we offer. I think you'll find our tools useful. And of course, we cover everything from a player news standpoint at RotoWire. And thanks for having me on, Derek. Really appreciate it. And your legacy lives on here at RotoWire.
Do you still have the Bartolo Colon fathead on the wall in the office?
I don't believe so.
Whatever
I think
happened
the
to
fat
that?
heads are gone.
Oh man,
Fat
someone
heads are
took
pretty
that
much
thing
gone.
down. That's a shame. It was just the head. Like those to me were the best fat head products. But I use RotoWire every day. That's probably influenced somewhat by working there for 13 years. But I think it's more than worth the price of a subscription. There's plenty of tools, lots of great information. It's hard to gather news, man. Like if you are listening to the show and you're like, it's hard to know what's going on around the league because every news outlet is just a mess right now. Yeah, RotoWire helps cut through that in a significant way. Plus, there's tons of tools like play other sports. I think you'll find a lot of value in a sub. Clay, I appreciate your time and your insight. Thanks again for joining me. We'll catch up again soon.
Hey, sounds good, Derek. Thanks so much for having me. Good talking to you.
And now it is time for our weekly tradition, as we have most Fridays throughout this season. Our senior hot dog correspondent, Niv Shah, joins us. Niv, I need your help with my Ottoneu team. That is main thing I want to talk to you about today, because as we were getting ready for the segment, you pointed out the All-Star break is a little bit of a lull, right? There's not much happening that triggers people to make auctions start, right? You're not finding shifts in playing time because there were 4 days with no games. But I think we're at the point now where people like me are facing the reality of maybe this not being their year. And in order to make my roster better for next year, I have to make some difficult decisions, especially on high-priced players, right? Because I'm in a league that's been together for 3 years. Inflation's not through the roof yet. So I feel conflicted. I feel like I can justify holding on to some higher salary players. And I think you're going to talk me out of keeping at least all of them. Maybe I'll keep one instead of 3.
Well, let's see.
Yeah, let's see it. So if you're watching on YouTube, this will be very instructive. You can see why my team is in 9th place. It has not been the year I had hoped on the position player side. So here's the type of question that people in keeper leagues of all kinds are thinking about. Ronald Acuna Jr., $43 right now.
Oof.
Looks great coming off the second ACL tear. I mean, he's been tearing the cover off the ball. And you're going to get at least a couple bucks tacked on just automatically, plus whatever teams throw at you, which often gets directed at either star players like that or rising star players. Like that's where I anticipate the money is going to go. So I think about Acuna and I'm like, okay, if he gets up to 48 or 50 bucks this offseason, do I actually want to hold him on this roster? And similar players, just to give more context, I've got Kyle Tucker at 44. I've got on the pitching side, I got Yoshinobu Yamamoto at 37. So these are guys that should be easy to trade, but I'm caught in this sort of how good is my team looking for next year and how much should I be willing to spend on top end players with the core that I've built?
Right. Well, this is a tough one. Acuna Jr. especially is tough. Kyle Tucker, $44, also a tough one. But when I look at this team, what stands out to me is really Wyatt Langford at $12, right? That's a piece that is just expensive enough that he might dodge getting a couple bucks at arbitration, and thus becomes like sort of a centerpiece in the future. Volpe and Zach Nito, like these guys, probably keepable, right? Probably guys you're going to hold next year. So you want to orient your thinking around like, well, who am I definitely keeping? And then what does my budget look like if I get rid of guys? 2 things on top of that. One, when you trade guys like Kyle Tucker, Ronald Acuna Jr., these are the names you're talking about, in their 40s or whatever, $40 price points, the team that you're going to trade them to, you're probably going to get a couple guys back. That's your goal. And you're also going to give them a pretty hefty loan. So you're basically going to be covering the majority of those salaries. What that does is that forces that team, the receiving team, the buying team, the team that's competing, to cut those players in the offseason, right? Like, they're going to have some pretty straightforward, well, look, man, my salary cap is close to $500 now. Oh no, I just reset to $400. I need to shed stuff fast. So what you want to do when you're thinking about this stuff is not just consider, hey, am I going to keep Ronald Acuna Jr., but what is the best path towards me making sure Ronald Acuna Jr. is in the player pool at auction next year? Because that's what you're looking at to top off your team at the end. These guys at the top, the prices stay pretty much flat once they're established. Like, superstars in this league are $45. That number doesn't go up and down. They just keep going to auction. They keep being auctioned, and they keep getting recycled in that $40 to $50 range. They're not going to become $70 players, and they're not going to become $20 players until like the productivity falls off. So you want to be able to have the budget for that stuff, and you want to be able to make other teams have to make difficult decisions in the offseason. Maybe you'll be able to get an Acuna Jr. back in the offseason for less, or maybe you'll be able to make sure that he goes to auction. So what do we got here? We got some pretty fun players at a core. Cheap Michael Bush, $1 Sal Frelick. These are guys that are like your bread and butter. They're not, I mean, Michael Bush has been pretty fun this year in moments, but they're not guys that you're like, okay, I'm super hyped about $1 Sal Frelick, but you're like, you know what? $3 Sal Frelick, that's just like a piece on my team that will just always be there. That's going to be there for a few years. It's not like the guy you'd want to lead the headline with, but it's good value. You want to scroll down to your pitching?
Yeah. Jeez, this is going to be kind of funny.
You're not
because
in love with the pitching.
The pitching, I thought I had a good plan because I stashed away Sandy Alcantara coming through Tommy John rehab, and I thought I'll have him for cheap, single digits. Sandy Alcantara for cheap, that's a good thing. Yeah. Yuri Perez was someone I got back in a trade, figuring maybe the same thing. I'd get back a future ace. He's looked really good coming off Tommy John surgery, so I feel fine about him as a keeper. I think that was generally a good call. You know, Bautista was a guy that last year when I was rebuilding, I was like, Felix Bautista is going to come off of Tommy John surgery. I feel pretty good about top-end relievers getting it back quickly because it's like all gas, no brakes in many instances anyway. So as long as the surgery did what it's supposed to do, like, you know, he's going to be the guy sooner rather than later. So I don't know, like the pitching, like Zach Gallen was an in-season waiver claim. He's $11. He just has been disappointing. He's probably not a keeper. Like, I don't know if there's a lot of trade value. That's what I'm finding challenging about the league is the types of players that are usually offered in trade. They're not necessarily surefire keepers, but they're not necessarily bad players either. So you're really left to make a difficult decision about the type of return you want. Like how common is it to take a player, let's just use Yoshinobu Yamamoto as an example, to turn him into a 1-for-1 trade where I get a $3 to $5 pitcher back that is much more likely to be kept. Is that a kind of a rare outcome in this format? I think that's
kind of a rare outcome. I think you'll see something where, you know, when you're the buying team, you want to get an upgrade, right? So you are probably going to give up a couple of pieces that you're using a little bit less on your side, but have upside, right? So 1-to-1, a little bit less likely because what kind of like quality pitcher would you want back that's like $3 to $5 that you'd be like, okay, I'm willing to give you Yamamoto for it. Like Yamamoto's going to be $39 next year. If he went to auction, he'd be probably close to $39 next year. He's had a pretty good season. One of the better pitchers in baseball this year, right? Like maybe third or fourth best pitcher. So, like, what would you want? I guess. Like, I'm not sure I want someone like a Gavin Williams type, or like a like I'm thinking like a Guardians, like this guy's shown flashes, maybe a little bit of a down year, but the age fits, and he's like $3 to $5, maybe $7. Like I don't know, like what kind of players are out there that fit that. I think it's a little easier to find guys that are stashed in people's minors section, like you have here. You have 4 guys sitting in your minors. You got Noah Schultz, you got Gage Jump, you got Bubba Chandler, and Didier Fuentes. All these guys, $1 to $2. A little bit more of a lottery ticket feel to those guys. Mm-hmm. And, if I am trying to capture that, like, I really want to hit options on lottery tickets, I think, and like 2 or 3, rather than sort of a non-sexy, but like a guy that would be the equivalent of like a Shane Baz, right, on your team now.
Yeah.
Good, very good pitcher, not bad, but not winning you every category, not like a good solid piece of the rotation, but not the top end of the rotation. So I think there's sort of 2 approaches there. Like, do you want to get a 4th starter? So now you have 3 or 4 4th starters that you can complement with an ace, or do you want to get a couple lottery tickets that may be cuts or maybe ace level in 2 years or in a year? And I would tend to go to the latter, because I think the lottery tickets and the high upside are how you get yourself from 9th back up to 1st. Saying like, let's like say what you actually, if you ended up doing something like a 1-to-1, you get like a $5 solid pitcher back. That guy's replacing Sandy Alcantara for you. You don't have Yamamoto anymore. You are certainly positioned with cap relief and your ability to do things in the auction draft or in the offseason to add top-end talent. But now that top-end talent isn't getting you, well, you said you're in 9th, so like it's not getting you to 3rd, it's getting you to like 5th. And so then you still need to do a little bit more. It's like lottery tickets, finding surplus value, as they call it, like guys who are well outperforming their salary, is an important complementary piece to also having the guys who perform at their salary when their salary is the top amounts, right? So if we look overall at your team, taking a step back, I see a $37 Yamamoto, a $44 Kyle Tucker, and a $43 Ronald Acuna. So you have 3 guys that are like at the top of their salary range. Do you have anyone else that's performing like a $40 player?
I mean, Churio at 23, he's going to catch a bunch of money in arbitration. I'm sure he's going to be at least a $30 guy.
Right.
My hope is that by having Churio, Wyatt Langford might stay a little cheaper. Churio will draw more attention, and Langford will end up being a little more of a bargain hole, to surplus value sort of hole.
They'll split it, and then you'll have, and again, like when I look at Langford and I think about Churio, those are 2 guys that have the top end of the range potential, right? And Yuri Perez is, I think, just showing how he's pitched so far this year, very exciting. I understand, and I think, you were doing some of this yourself, like you're taking these risks with Alcantara and Perez coming back from injury that they're going to well outperform their salary, right? You're like taking those risks. They don't always hit, but if you can get 3 guys to hit, like, and then you spend real money on a couple guys on top of that, and you're starting to cook, right? So I think what you want to do is sort of still play the sort of upside game. You don't want to go back and look at your return and be like, I got a solid 3rd starter that isn't going to maybe catches a little bit of arb, going to be a $10 guy next year, absolutely solid piece to my team, and that's all I have to show for Yamamoto, who was like, again, like SP3 or SP4 this year. So, I have the same problem, frankly. Like in my league, I have Yamamoto as well. I have guys sniffing around being like, what's it going to take to get Yamamoto off you? And I'm like, look, I need 2 very exciting upside plays. Otherwise, like, I guess the way I would say it, the way I'm thinking about it for my team, and maybe this is a useful thing to say aloud, the thing I did well is I captured a $34 Yamamoto from auction. And so like, you did that. Like you did some things you didn't do well, or some things didn't work out. That's why both our teams are in 9th place. But the things you did well were identify that like this $34 to $37 player is worth more than that price, and nobody else is bidding, so I'm going to take him. So like you want to be rewarded for that in a real way, and I tend to go for the sexy rewards, and that can be a cycle that ends up with you missing often and down in the doldrums. But when things start hitting and coming together, you have to trust yourself that you can identify the upside plays that are a little bit more exciting versus the ones that are less interesting, and then you can have a team that has like 4 or 5 guys that are well outperforming their salary, complemented with 2 or 3 guys that you go and grab at auction, and then you're sitting in a buyer's position at this time next year.
Yeah, the missteps too. I had plenty of money to spend. I think I thought I spent it well on actual auction day. I mean, Matt Olson at 27, I think has been fine. He's a slight underperformer, but you're not like that's not the reason I'm in 9th place. Ozzy Albies at 19 looked like a great value on auction night. That has gone horribly wrong. I think maybe not trading Anthony Volpe when he had more value and he was cheaper is a mistake in hindsight. I thought there was another level coming. We haven't seen it yet. So I try to retrace my steps and think through it. I got a couple guys like, Kyle Manzardo at $6 isn't going to be a good keeper. Like that's almost a cut now sort of player. If I want to take a flyer on someone else for $1 and just get that player on my roster now and just kind of see how it goes, right? So I do think there's some like, it's a kind of like weeding. I'm thinking about house stuff because I had to pulled some weeds over the weekend, but it's pulling weeds. Cutting Kyle Manzardo and Ottoneu at $6 is pulling weeds out of the garden.
Yeah, I think like Kyle Manzardo is a great example. He is. I'm a Cleveland fan. I'm a Guardians fan, so I really had high hopes for him. It's just not happening so far this year. Someone will take that cap hit off your table pretty quickly. That $6 becomes $3. Probably doesn't get claimed. Probably goes for auction in 2 weeks. If he hits 2 home runs in a week, and someone's like, yeah, okay, why not? But that's the kind of plays that you should be making as well, right? Mm-hmm. These guys that aren't doing anything for you, that you're already recognizing, I'm not taking you for $8 into next year. I'm not taking you for $10 into next year. I'm not even taking you at $4 into next year. Those guys can hit the bricks, and you can start rotating through some new guys and see if there is anyone that sticks just enough for you to be like, oh, I took a $1 flyer on you, and at $3 next year, I'm happy you're part of my team. And when we were talking about your team at the very beginning, we mentioned like Volpe and Zach Neto or whatever, and it's like those guys are fine. There might have been upside to trading Volpe or whatever, but you need to fill out your roster. You need to have guys that'll play games. Not everyone has to be a $25 player that you're paying $3 or a $40 player that you're paying $20. You do need some guys that just are regular everyday players that are at par, that are worth what you're paying them, and that number isn't a huge number. And I would start working the waiver wire and starting to see what's out there, man. Like, especially with the bench guys that you're paying more than $2 to, you're going to start seeing cap relief really quickly, and it'll give you room to operate. Thinking about my team real quick, I just to give you an example, I like pretty early on started cutting guys that just were not working out. And the result of that is like other people cut people to pick up those guys. And all of a sudden I have a $16 Jose Altuve right when he starts hitting again. You get to take these flyers on these guys that other people are frustrated with. You're not the only guy who missed on guys, Like it feels like that sometimes when you're sitting down there at 9th, but like 10th, 11th, and 12th missed on guys, 8th missed on guys. Everyone except like 1st and 2nd missed on guys. So there are people out there that could get cut. There are people out there on the waiver wire. It's worth engaging with that. And then for like a Yamamoto, Kyle Tucker, I kind of don't want you to trade, but Acuna maybe. Those guys, Kyle Tucker, you sort of want to see where he signs next year. Sort of want to have the option on Kyle Tucker at $46. Be like, well, what park are you going to play in, man? Because that bat plays. So, but Acuna and Yamamoto are guys that you can fix deficiencies on other rosters with those guys. Hey, do you want speed and a little pop and, a guy who is just hitting the ball? Well, I have him, and let's see what it looks like. And I would definitely try to get a farm system for him, like a couple of top end prospects or a top end prospect in a young bat that have upside. That's what I would do.
Yeah, that 1-for-1 thing. I was just thinking about Yamamoto as an example. I mean, if you have Chris Bubich for 5, are you trading getting Yamamoto with a loan for Bubich and saying, I did well, I got an upgrade? Because I think you have to find someone that might be overperforming, that you as the contending team are worried about, to flip them and say, I just feel better. This is I'm willing to give up the future value because I want to lock in those kinds of ratios for the rest of the season. Like, that seems like the best case scenario, and it takes the right type of person on the other side of the field willing to do it.
The super right fit, right? Like, that's a team that has popped into first or second on the back of this guy, and then is willing to say, I'm gonna lock in and get an upgrade there. In our league, a really good example of that, that it shocked the league. It was like a really interesting trade, a really interesting challenge. The guy in first, who has never won in League One, traded Riley Green away to add Mike Trout. And there's so much risk to that, and it's so spicy that I'm like, I love it. I'm like, yeah, man, go get it. Like, go get it. But it takes like exactly that, like, real willingness to take on risk and look at Riley Green at $16 and say, you know what? This is a $30 player. I'm willing to give up some of that upside, but I know he's going to get hammered in arbitration on my team next year. So I know I'm not having like $16 Riley Green is a thing of the past. Like, this is over. And so do I want to add like a Mike Trout that, having the year that Mike Trout is having with all the downsides that Mike Trout comes with? That's the kind of trade that you need to find a partner that'll do that. And then you can do a 1-to-1 that like can fit. But otherwise, I think, finding someone who is willing to take on that risk to chase the banner, takes the right kind of person for that. And I think you might be able to find them. You might not. I don't know. I think that's what makes it fun. There's so many different ways of approaching what you want your return to look like and what people are willing to give up. Everyone in my league has a different, like, we've been playing together for a long time, but we all have a feel for each other now. We all know what everyone else is sort of looking for in return. And that makes stuff like, it makes it really fun to be like, well, who's competing this year? What kind of things did that guy like in the past? What does he give up in the past? What can I work with to get like a good return on Yamamoto, a good return on maybe someone like Mookie Betts or Freddie Freeman or Kyle Schwarber or whatever, like any of these other nice pieces. Like, what does that look like? And then you get to like go from there. And I think like the other thing I would say, the last thing I'd say about this is now is the time. The trade deadline in Ottoneu is quite late. It's end of August. It's like September 1 is the cutoff. But right now, you as a seller have a ton of leverage, because if someone adds a player this weekend, they have them for a significant percentage of the season. If the buyer waits another 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that percentage starts falling off real quick. We're in the second half, right? We're well past the midway point of the season overall. So you want to get, like, right now, it's a really great opportunity for buyers to be like, I can get some of these ratios for the second half. I can get some of these numbers and they'll really stick. And when you make the trades a little later, like, just having 4 starts of Yamamoto versus having 9 starts of Yamamoto is just a big difference. So
yeah, I keep trying to look at the standings. I'm like, can I get back into? I can't win, but can I do well enough?
Thing.
Like, do I care? Do I care enough about finishing 4th to just make some put? Like, I don't think so. I that's the hardest thing about any long-term league. It really is. It's like you just don't feel. At least I don't feel enough of a sense of accomplishment for 3rd or 4th to be in the position I'm in now and to just play it out and rally that way, because I see the better path to the top being getting more and more long-term pieces on board. Everyone understands that's the optimal way to try and win in the future, is not to try and play for third or fourth right now. And I think the incentive structure in a lot of keeper leagues needs a tweak. It needs to be more rewarding to finish well without winning, just to keep that little extra balance, to keep that carrot out there. I don't know how to make it just right, but it's missing.
So in Ottoneu, we do offer one thing, and you teed me up for it pretty perfectly, Derek, and I don't know if you meant to do that, but we have a competition called the Ottoneu Prestige League. Mm-hmm. And that competition is a best ball league where you're playing against other qualified teams. And to qualify, you have to finish top 6 in your regular league. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing that I'm challenged with in League One. I only have one team to myself. I co-manage a team with Chad Young in the FanGraphs staff league, and I manage this team in League One. And I'm sitting like 8th, 9th, and I'm like, man, if I let some of these guys ahead of me sell real hard, I might like slide into 6th, and that could be enough for me to qualify for OPL next year. And playing in OPL, you know, in addition to getting like a fun, unique T-shirt that you can't get in any other way, you really get to measure yourself up against really good teams, and you get to construct your team a little bit different because of the best ball format. And, you know, that's a whole other conversation, but I definitely agree with you that generally these kinds of formats, you need to really use both carrot and stick to tell people like 10th place is not where you want to be sitting. 11th place is not where you want to be sitting. I think OPL does that to an extent. It does for the folks who play it. They're like, this is awesome. They love doing it. It's a limited tournament. We have something like 4,000 teams across all of Ottoneu, and only 240 can enter OPL. And once it's entered, you're locked out. So you have to finish top half in a 12-team league, and you have to enter before it locks out. And I think that has moved some people into saying, like, you know, I do want to make that competition next year. But overall, I don't. You know, that's a small thing that Ottoneu does specifically. This format, like sort of the big picture version of this keeper format, you know, you have to just assume that, like, if you play with enough guys for enough time, you know, my friend John, who is in first place right now, he very well knows that he has never won in League One. And, you know, he has been feeling that pressure, and you have to just sort of build that pressure over time with people, hopefully without chasing them away from your leagues, but building that rapport and building that history with people works as well as anything, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. I started to get a feel for the other people in the league goes a long way. Year 3, it'll get easier from here. Like, and as we get more familiar with what the tendencies of every team is in that buyer and seller position. Yeah. So the focus of this week's hot dogs is actually something I'm going to call not dogs, even though some of these are hot dogs. There's a lot of deception here. If you're watching on YouTube, the image you see on the left is an episode of Binging with Babish, in which he makes the hot dog bowl, which is it's from Tim Robinson's sketch, and maybe people have heard this before. I've got the clip here.
How many hot dogs do you eat in a day, Tim?
I'd rather not answer that. Thank you, though.
Did you eat hot dogs today?
Not exactly. Why are you bringing this up?
Well, you have mustard on your shirt, and frankly, your burps reek of hot dogs.
I had a hot dog bowl earlier today. Yes, I did.
And what is a hot dog bowl?
It's like a burrito bowl, but it's chopped up hot dogs in a big old bread bowl.
So like a much larger, less healthy hot dog?
Can I go? I'm starving.
The Tim Robinson's character is at the doctor's office. Doctor played by the actor. He's on a bunch of different stuff. He's in The Good Place. He's on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. You'll probably recognize the voice. I forget his actual name, but just a very, very straight-laced character that he plays all the time. And yeah, so Babish on YouTube actually made this concoction, which, you know, the actual bread bowl. I think he went to Panera to get a bread bowl, chopped up 5 hot dogs to fill it, and then made the Instagram-worthy crisscross of ketchup, mustard, and some dollop of relish on top. Like, that's the hot dog bowl. And the reason I bring that to the conversation is because there's a place in DC called Ben's Chili Bowl, which apparently is not actually a hot dog bowl. It's just a chili dog. What's happening here, Niv?
So, Ben's Chili Bowl is an institution here in DC. We have it at the ballpark. And that's actually why it came up. One of the listeners mentioned, like, I heard that this is the DC dog. And, you saw a picture of it. It kind of looks like a dog. It's not a hot dog. It's a half smoke, which is a DC specific kind of sausage. It's like half hot dog, half sausage. If you ever bit into one, you would recognize that it's not being a hot dog. The texture is way more sausage-like. And it's smokier, which is, it's good. I like half smokes quite a bit. Ben's Chili Bowl is like a famously messy experience. The first time, I think it was one of the first times I went to a baseball game in DC, actually. It was like 2011 or something. And I went with a couple of my friends who had lived in DC for a while. And they were like, look, you have to get Ben's Chili Bowl, get it all the way. And I was like, all right, Ben's Chili Bowl all the way. And the thing that I got back, you shouldn't eat at a baseball game. Like, it was, picking it up was a mistake. Fork and knifing it, come on, you can't be doing that. But it's mustard, onions, and like a really goopy chili. Like a not like a chili that is trying to be polite. A chili that is just all over the place. And like, before you pick that thing up, you better identify the nearest men's room, nearest bathroom, because you're gonna need to wash your hands right after. One of the things that I think is curious is they have one in National Airport, and they also have one in Dulles, I think. And I'm not really sure if we should be offering that to people before they get on planes.
It seems cruel. I mean, because I think there'd be some people in a hurry that get it, thinking it's a relatively easy portable food. They get the tray, or it's in a bag, it's rolled up. They open it at the airplane seat. They're like, "Oh, this is all bad." Like,
and then, if you don't recognize that smell, you just shouldn't be taking that onto an airplane.
Yeah, like there's a courtesy thing about the foods you should eat on an airplane because of how close everybody is. So you want
to go low aroma if possible.
Yeah, that's ideal. I mean, that dog, though, from Ben's Chili Bowl, it does actually look a lot like the Greek chili dogs I was referring to last week. And Carrot in our Discord pointed out that Eater Detroit had a great story just about the Greek chili dog, which was not a food eaten in Greece, but it was inspired, created, developed by Greek immigrants in Detroit. And that totally makes sense because it's just, the story is really cool. So just check that out. But I'm glad it confirmed my suspicion that the actual Greek chili dog was not being eaten in Europe. That was not where that food originated.
That doesn't. So I'm pretty excited. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday here in DC, we have the Reds coming to town, and they also have a Greek chili inspired, Skyline is a Greek chili inspired topping on their Coney dog. So, I think that is kind of like a universal thing, the chili cheese dog. It's becoming like pretty clear that we are more similar than we are different in our interest in putting chili on a hot dog. So I'm excited to see what Nats Park comes up with for the Reds.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Chili on the dog, great. Let's see it. I want to see how close
they get.
It's not
really great at the ballpark. It is a fun thing to eat, generally.
Yeah.
Though now that I say that aloud, what is the appropriate venue to eat a chili cheese dog?
I mean, just not on an airplane. I think that's still,
not on an airplane.
It's just too messy. Too many things going on. Not a good airplane food.
Is it a backyard food? Maybe.
That gets complicated. Backyard foods, I feel like, should also be simple. So
yeah, you're not gonna. Yeah, so I don't know. I am now, because there are a lot of places that are serving this thing. I guess maybe on a boardwalk.
Boardwalk, yes, the boardwalk is the ideal place for the chili dog. Near an ocean, near a roller coaster. No,
yes,
also,
that's right.
Also feels like you're wafting back into airplane territory. We're like, is that a good idea? That's where they serve them. So
that's where they are.
That's where you get them. I'm waiting for the walking, walking tacos. How about a walking chili dog? Just get that into a bag, make it a little more portable. I think that's the next iteration that we're looking for. So let's get on that. Let's see if we can get the food scientists, the chefs. We got a couple chefs listening to the show. Chef Michael Armstrong, Chef Ryan McLaughlin, good fantasy players, great chefs too. I bet they can cook something up for us. Niv, It's been a lot of fun, as
Always a
always,
good
this is every
time.
Friday. I think my Ottoneu team is going to be headed in the right direction. Hopefully that was helpful for a lot of folks out there who might be in a similar position, disappointed by what 2025 has brought them, but optimistic about what the future might hold.
Yeah, I hope so. It was fun, and it's always fun to think about what you can get in return in Ottoneu trades. So I'm really interested in what you decide to go, what directions you decide to go with that, and keep us updated on how those trades work out for you.
It's my weekend activity, right? In little bits of
Awesome.
downtime, trying to get some good trade offers out there.
Love
We
it.
are going to go on our way out the door. A quick thank you again to Clay Link for joining me for the first part of the show. Thanks to Niv for all of his insight on Ottoneu and from the hot dog world. Thanks to our producer, Brian Smith, putting this together. Eno's back from Germany on Monday. That's going to do it for this episode of Rates and Barrels. Have a great weekend.